Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatripatamaham bande Shri Guruduntarinam yatripatamaham bande Paramanandamadam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Katanchana smrite yasmin dushkaram sukaram bhavet smrite viparitam syat Shri Chaitanya Mahavitam. Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu, could you kindly share the screen? Who would like to volunteer to read today? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I will read, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shall I read, Prabhu? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yes. I mean, to me, you're audible. Yeah.
Yes.
You can go ahead.
Yes. On the morning of Gaurapurnima, the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada lectured on a Bhagavatam verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaja to Lord Nrsingadev. The verse, Bhagavatam 7.9.38, indirectly refers to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. In this way, my Lord, you have appeared in different incarnations as human beings, as animals, as a great saintly person, as demigods, and as a fish and a tortoise. In this way, you maintain the whole creation and different planetary systems and kill the demoniac principles in every age. My Lord, therefore, protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are known as Triyuga, or Lord who appears in three yugas. Seated comfortably on his Vyasasana, Srila Prabhupada looked out over his reading spectacles at the long hall full of seated disciples. Two devotees fanned him with big chamara whisks. The many glass chandeliers sparkled. At the opposite end of the hall stood the forms of Radha Madhava and Lord Chaitanya. So, here is a very specific statement about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Said Prabhupada, he is Avatara. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is Channa. Channa means covered, not directly, because he has appeared as a devotee. Srila Prabhupada explained why the Supreme Lord appeared in Kali Yuga as a devotee. When Lord Krishna appeared, he ordered everyone to surrender to me, but they took it. Who is this person asking like that? What right does he have? Why shall I give up? But God himself, the Supreme Being, he must order. That is God. But we think otherwise. Who is this man? Why is he ordering? Why shall I give up? The whole process of Krishna consciousness is submission, surrender to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explained. But the way to surrender to Krishna is to submit to his devotees, his representative. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared this day for giving mercy to the fallen souls who are so foolish they cannot take to Krishna consciousness. He is personally teaching them that is this Kirtana. Later that morning, Prabhupada came down to the temple room again, this time to perform initiations. 15 devotees were receiving Brahminical initiation, 25 were receiving first initiation, and 7 men were receiving sannyasa. Again, Srila Prabhupada quoted the verse that had become a theme for the festival. Kiba Vipra Kibanyasi Shudra Kenenaya. Either he is a grahastha or a sannyasi, it doesn't matter. He must become a guru. How? Yei Krishna Tattva Veta. One who knows the principles of Krishna consciousness, one who understands Krishna, he can become a guru. Guru is the post given to the sannyasis and to the brahmanas Without becoming a Brahmana, nobody can become a sannyasi. And the sannyasi is supposed to be the guru of both all the ashramas and all the varnas. So, for preaching work, we require so many sannyasis. People are suffering all over the world for want of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada cautioned the young men to live as very strict sannyasis. He also stressed that all his disciples should be training to become qualified gurus. He quoted, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna Upadesha. Anywhere, either you are in this district or that district, it doesn't matter. Either you are at home or outside home, it doesn't matter. You become a guru, everyone. How shall I become guru? I have no qualification. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you don't require any qualification. You simply require one qualification, that you repeat the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. That's all. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna Upadesh. You become a guru. Don't adulterate Krishna Upadesha like a rascal or nonsense. Present it as it is. Bhagavad Gita. Then you can become a guru. You can become a guru in your own family. You can become a guru in your society, your nation, wherever you are. And if it's possible, you go outside and preach this mission of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, our movement's name is Krishna consciousness. Whatever Krishna says, you accept and preach. You become Guru. On Gaura Purnima day, everyone fasted until moonrise, and most of the devotees walked down to the Ganges to bathe. Jayapataka Swami told them that, according to Shastra, whoever bathed in the Ganges at Mayapur during Gaura Purnima would become liberated from birth and death. In the early evening, pilgrims began arriving in great numbers from all over West Bengal. People yearly visited the temples in Mayapur, especially the birth site of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and more recently ISKCON's Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. In Calcutta, people had seen the billboards advertising the ISKCON Gaur Purnima festival, and by word of mouth, tens of thousands of villagers had heard about the longest building in West Bengal and the golden deity of Radha Madhava. Devotees greeted the guests with prasadam and sold copies of Gitar Gan, Srila Prabhupada's Bengali versification of Bhagavad Gita. By night time, long streams of people were flowing in and out of the front gates. The crowd raised a cloud of dust, and the air filled with sounds of rickshaw bells, women singing, friends talking, and the amplified kirtana emanating from the temple. Most of the visitors walked to the temple, visited the photo exhibit, and then stayed for a while watching the kirtana or the theatre performance at the outdoor pandal stage. Although the number of visitors approached 100,000, the scene remained peaceful as people moved along without pushing or hurrying, observing the customary respect of visiting a holy place. Dhruvanatha. The most ecstatic highlight of the festival was when, after greeting the deities in the morning, Srila Prabhupada would circumambulate the temple. There was a bell on either side of the deity room, and as we circumambulated and Prabhupada came to the bells, a devotee would hand him the rope. As the devotees chanted and danced ecstatically, Prabhupada would pull the bell in time to the kirtana, and at the same time, he would raise his left hand to indicate that devotees should chant and dance more and more. Anakadunduvi. Srila Prabhupada would sit on the veranda looking over all of Mayapur. I saw him watching some boys herding their cows. He was absorbed in watching the whole place. Then someone gave him a little pair of binoculars and he would look out across Mayapur. With one finger up in the air, he looked like a general. He was looking across to Bhaktivedanta Thakur's house, Bhakti Vinoda Thakur's house, and then he spotted the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. He looked at it very closely, and then he said, almost no men. They have no men. Satswarupa Dasa Goswami. One day, Prabhupada called in the GBC members. It was in the afternoon, and we could see he was feeling very blissful. He was hearing the kirtana in the temple. He said everyone should come to Mayapur and chant 24 hours a day. He said, there is so much room here. The morning class is so nice. Prahlad Maharaj's instruction. A million years ago, a 5-year-old boy was speaking. The chanting, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakura, is the only solace. It's nothing material, the chanting. A Jamila called the name of Narayana and was saved. Prabhupada said that batches of devotees should come to Mayapur so that there should always be 500 men present. Then a devotee said, in America, they are trying to chant more 12 hours a day, trying to get a 24-hour Kirtana schedule. Yes, everywhere, Srila Prabhupada said. This chanting should go on instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and then no solutions. There should be chanting. Gopa, Vrandapala. I had guard duty, and Prabhupada would get up around 12 midnight or 1 o'clock. He would be upstairs, and I would be one floor below. He was chanting a lot, pacing back and forth on the balcony. I couldn't see him, but I could see his shaven head silhouetted. So he was walking about 10 steps one way and then 10 steps the other way. I had 3-hour watch, and I sat there chanting my japa and watching Prabhupada's head go back and forth. Sometimes I could hear when his chanting was louder. I was reminded of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati because Srila Prabhupada described many times the balcony where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati paced back and forth, envisioning and considering how to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. So Prabhupada was also pacing and thinking how to spread Krishna consciousness. Anakadundubi. In Prabhupada's room, on the wall, there was a beautiful sandalwood carving of Radha and Krishna, just like on the Krishna book cover, with Radha and Krishna standing, Radharani with her arm around Krishna, holding his lute, and Krishna holding his cape around her. When there wasn't any guests for darshana, Prabhupada would just sit and look at that picture. He loved it very much. When I would take his garland up to him, he would wear it during darshana for about an hour and a half. Then, after darshana, he would get up and go to the bathroom after first taking the garland off. Then he would come back and give the garland to Radha and Krishna. A number of times I gave him garlands made of very fragrant little white flowers that Jananivasa would give me. Prabhupada used to take that garland and put it on Radha Krishna in such a beautiful way. It was the perfection of deity worship. The way he put that little garland there, Jananivasa. Just before Prabhupada left, I came up and asked him, frankincense, Srila Prabhupada? There was no one else in the room at that time, and he was just chanting japa sitting in his room. I started to fill up the room with smoke from the frankincense. Smoke was coming out everywhere, and Prabhupada kept the windows closed. He looked up and said, this creates such an atmosphere of spiritual understanding. This is so nice, so nice. Then he started chanting again. Krishna Krishna. When Prabhupada was finally finished conducting the Mayapur festival, I asked him if he was tired. Prabhupada said, what tired? So many people are coming and hearing about Krishna. When preaching, you feel refreshed. Harish. Should I continue, Prabhu, or?
You can continue for a while. Yes, ma'am. You can
Yes,
continue for a while.
Yes, Prabhu. The lame man and the blind man. Ever since the BBT press marathon in the summer of 1975, the press had continued to keep up with Srila Prabhupada's writing. A sweet, transcendental competition had developed between Prabhupada, his press, and the book distributors. In November 1975, Prabhupada had written to one of the leading book distributors. The BBT says that they are publishing at the speed of my translating and that you will distribute at the pace of publishing. That's nice, but still I am ahead in my translation work. They owe me now the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm working already on the 7th canto. In recent months, however, Srila Prabhupada's literary output had been diminishing, mostly because of his involvement in management. His direct supervision of the construction in Bombay, his month-long managerial drive with Vrindavana, his struggle to heal a major ISKCON schism, such activities were not conducive to writing. In Mayapur, when the devotees had failed to control the slamming of doors, he had complained bitterly that this heart-cracking sound interrupted his meditative translating. He explained that he sometimes thought for 2 or 3 days about a single purport before actually writing it. Actually, the word translating is incomplete in describing Srila Prabhupada's writing. Translating involved only the verses and synonyms, but Prabhupada's deepest meditations, what he referred to as his personal ecstasies, were his Bhaktivedanta purports. Composing the purports as well as translating the verses came best when he could think about them throughout the day, not just when he turned on his dictating machine at 1 a.m. He was translating the extremely grave and complex Vedic knowledge into modern context, thus making it understandable to Western readers, and it was a great demanding task. The best speak to best speak to the people of the world through his Srimad Bhagavatam writings. Srila Prabhupada required a very conducive situation. After the Mayapur festival, therefore, he formulated an itinerary that in about a month's time would bring him to Hawaii. There he expected to find an atmosphere beneficial for his literary work. His traveling secretary Pushtakrishna Swami wrote ahead to Hawaii shortly after the Mayapur festival. Prabhupada must do a lot of translating, so don't set up programs outside. And if there have to be guests, it must be restricted to 5 p.m. only until about 6:30 each evening. If these things are nicely arranged, then Prabhupada will stay some time to translate. Since Prabhupada's itinerary also included another US tour, his secretary wrote ahead to Kirtanananda Swami in New Vrindavan. Prabhupada has revealed a bit more about things. He said that as time goes on, he is less and less concerned about seeing visitors. He mentioned that Aurobindo saw visitors only once a year on his birthday. Although Prabhupada deemed this is not possible now, I asked him where he would like to go for some time to translate. He said New Vrindavan, and he said he would go there after the Rath Yatra in New York. Hawaii, May 3, 1976. After brief visits in several Indian cities as well as stops in Melbourne, Auckland, and Fiji, Srila Prabhupada arrived in Hawaii on schedule. Immediately, he began to increase his writing. The devotees were keenly noting the number of digits he ran up each night on his dictating machine, which for them was like a measure of the benedictions for all humanity. Whereas in India, he had done usually no more than 100 digits a day and sometimes none. In Hawaii, his rate jumped to 200 and even 300 day after day. Harishauri, who had accompanied Prabhupada from Vrindavana as his servant, wrote in his diary, Prabhupada is translating like anything now, and he did 290 digits again last night. The temple was in a quiet neighborhood with several acres of garden-like property. In the backyard stood a large stately banyan tree, and in the front, the largest tulsi bushes anywhere in ISKCON. The devotees grew their own vegetables and flowers, mangoes and coconuts were so plentiful that they were available free. The weather was sunny, in, interspersed with occasional showers. Prabhupada fell ill and could not sleep more than 1.5 hours at night and 1 or 2 hours during the day. But being transcendental, he used this inability to sleep as another way to increase his writing time. Despite his Emphasis on writing, however, he continued lecturing in the temple, going on morning walks, holding discussions on the beach, and daily answering his mail. Still, Hawaii was far more being like Vrindavana or Calcutta, where old friends and new admirers demanded hours of his time. Here he was mostly alone with his trained staff. He had been in Honolulu about a week when he announced one morning, walking along Waikiki Beach, that he expected to finish that night the last purport to the seventh canto. When Harishori expressed his happiness to hear this, Prabhupada replied, "Oh, I can finish very quickly, but I have to present it for your understanding. It requires deep thought, very carefully, to present it for the common man." That night, around 9, Prabhupada called for Harishauri and said that he would not take his evening massage. He wanted the time for finishing the seventh canto. Shutting the door and returning to his desk, he worked all night until 5 in the morning. At the end of the seventh canto, he dictated a closing remark. Completed on the night of Vaishakhi Shukla Ekadashi, the 10th of May 1976, in the temple of Panchatattva, New Navadvipa, Honolulu. By the mercy of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Thus we may happily chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Immediately, Prabhupada turned to the eighth canto, beginning with the prayer. First of all, let me offer my humble, respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Prabhupada explained that his spiritual master had instructed him at Radhakunda in 1935 to stress book production more than temple construction. He had followed that instruction, beginning with his starting Back to Godhead magazine in 1944, and in 1958 he had begun Srimad Bhagavatam. As soon as he had published 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam in India, he had started for the US in August 1965. I am continuously trying to publish books as suggested by my spiritual master. Now, in this year 1976, I have completed the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and summary of the 10th canto has already been published as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, the 8th canto, 9th canto, 10th canto, 11th canto, and 12th canto are yet to be published. On this occasion, therefore, I am praying to my spiritual master to give me strength to finish this work. I am neither a great scholar nor a great devotee. I am simply a humble servant of my spiritual master. And to the best of my ability, I am trying to please him by publishing these books with the cooperation of my disciples in America. Fortunately, scholars all over the world are appreciating these publications. Let us cooperatively publish more and more volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam just to please His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. Prabhupada said he was making the Bhagavatam understandable for the common man. This did not mean his writings were lacking in substance. They were pure substance. But in the essential spirit of the Bhagavatam itself, Prabhupada was omitting anything extraneous and distracting, selecting from the commentaries of the previous acharyas whatever would best impel his readers to pure devotional service. At the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the author Srila Vyasadeva states that the Bhagavatam excludes all materially motivated forms of religiosity and offers only pure devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore called the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. And just as the Bhagavatam is itself the most essential spiritual knowledge, so Srila Prabhupada, in translating and commenting on the Bhagavatam, utilized the same spirit of delivering the pure message without any speculation or deviation. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all incarnations, the cause of all causes. and Prabhupada revealed this conclusion on every page. Although some Sanskrit scholars disagreed with Prabhupada's emphasis on Krishna, his Krishnizing of the Sanskrit was not whimsical but followed strictly the ancient tradition of Parampara. Overwhelmingly, those university scholars who seriously read Prabhupada's books appreciated the faithful quality of his Parampara rendering. Reviews came from all over the world. For those who have no access to the Sanskrit language, these books convey in superb manner the message of the Bhagavatam. Dr. Alaka Hejib, Department of Sanskrit and Indian Studies, Harvard University. It is a deeply felt, powerfully conceived, and beautifully explained work. I don't know whether to praise more this translation of the Bhagavad Gita, its daring method of explanation, or the endless fertility of its ideas. I have never seen any other work on the Gita with such an important voice and style. It will occupy a significant place in the intellectual and ethical life of modern man for a long time to come. Dr. Shaligram Shukla, Professor of Linguistics, Georgetown University. For the first time, we possess a readily accessible edition for this great religious classic that will provide opportunity for scholars in Indian literature and followers of the Krishna consciousness tradition alike to compare the original text with a modern English translation and become acquainted with the deeper spiritual meaning of this work through the learned commentary of Sri Bhaktivedanta. Anyone who gives a close reading to the commentary will sense that here, as in his other works, Sri Bhaktivedanta has combined a healthy mixture of fervent devotion and aesthetic a sensitivity of a devotee and the intellectual rigor of a textual scholar. At no point does the author allow the intended meaning of the text to be eclipsed by the promotion of a particular doctrinal persuasion. These exquisitely wrought volumes will be a welcome addition to the libraries of all persons who are committed to the study of Indian spirituality and religious literature, whether their interests are sparked by the motivations of the scholar, the devotee, or the general reader. Dr. J. Bruce Long, Department of Asian Studies, Cornell University. This English edition, translated by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, is superb. It contains the original Sanskrit and Bengali verses with their English transliteration, synonyms, translations, and elaborate purports, easily bearing testimony to the author's profound knowledge of the subject. Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor, Emeritus Chairman and Professor, Department of Philosophy, Government Postgraduate College, Jhanpur, India. The Vedic literature mentions various spiritual paths and forms of yoga, and unless the commentator has realized the highest Vedic conclusion, he can easily miss the essential message of Bhagavatam. Indeed, impersonalist commentators have attempted to use the Bhagavatam to support their speculations that the individual soul is in all respects one with the Supreme, even though this contradicts the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. As a commentator on the Vedic literature, Srila Prabhupada was distinguished even among Vaishnava scholars because of his being in disciplic succession from Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is glorified as Patita Pavana, the savior of most fallen. As a follower and empowered representative of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada was faithfully and perfectly carrying on the tradition of rescuing fallen souls, bringing them back to their original Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's making Bhagavatam message available, therefore, did not mean mere simplification. It meant urgently addressing the reader to give up the world of illusion and take to the eternal liberation of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada was making available to the average reader spiritual truth that had been hidden and unavailable even to austere practitioners of yoga and learned Brahmanas proficient in Sanskrit. Old wine in new bottles, Prabhupada called it. The Vaishnavas' argument against impersonalism had been chalked out by Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya and later synthesized by Lord Chaitanya into the philosophy of Acintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. These eternal truths had to be presented in every age, but in the traditional debates between the Vaishnavas and the impersonalists, the authoritative basis had always been Vedic scripture. Modern society, however, was so degraded that a preacher could no longer appeal to the authority of Vedic scripture. No one would accept it. Srila Prabhupada's writings therefore dealt with such theories as the origin of life by chance, Dravidian evolution, and chemical evolution, and he defeated them all with strong logic, establishing that life comes from life, not from dead matter. Prabhupada had dedicated one of his first books, Easy Journey to Other Planets, to the scientists of the world, and had even adapted the Bhagavad Gita verses quoted in that book into scientific jargon of matter and antimatter. Deftly, he used both Shastra and logic to establish the Vedic conclusion. Prabhupada's writings also combated the false teachings of bogus yogis, gurus, and incarnations, who had appeared like a tidal wave of falsity in Kali Yuga, both in India and in the West. His writings criticized modern political institutions also, analyzing why monarchies fell, why democracy was also failing, and how dictatorship would increasingly harass the citizens. The government's policies of abusive taxation and their propaganda to bring people to the cities to work in the factories, abandoning simple agrarian life, were all discussed in light of the scriptures. In his travels, Srila Prabhupada has observed the rampant degradation of human society, sexual liberation, the latest fads in intoxication, and the vicious crimes of animal slaughter and meat eating. A Bhagavad Gita purport dealt specifically with the threat of nuclear holocaust. Such people are considered the enemies of the world because ultimately they will invent or create something which will bring destruction to all. Indirectly, this verse anticipates the invention of nuclear weapons, of which the world is today very proud. At any moment, war may take place, and these atomic weapons may create havoc. Such things are created solely for the destruction of the world, and this is indicated here. Due to godlessness, such weapons are invented in human society. They are not meant for the peace and prosperity of the world. Prabhupada's criticisms were strong and authoritative, befitting a true Acharya. His uncompromising spirit was appealing. He was not a timid scholar pointing out some obscure historical references. Yet, underlying his writing, a humble tone of request spoke to the heart. As the servant of Krishna, he asked everyone to please take up Krishna consciousness and be restored to his original constitutional position of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Prabhupada was making his books practical, but to do so required care and deep meditation. He combined the thoughtfulness of a textual scholar with the practical applications of a transcendental social and political reformer. So many scholars had already presented their English editions of Bhagavad Gita, and not a single reader had become a devotee of Krishna. Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is, however, was creating thousands of devotees. More than simply rendering valuable Vedic literatures, Srila Prabhupada had come to the West, starting in New York City, to establish a way of life based on that Vedic literature. Consequently, he had gained first-hand experience in bringing the most materialistic persons to the standard of renunciation and devotional service. His books therefore reflected these practical realizations, and many times in his purports he would relate his difficulties and triumphs in trying to introduce spiritual principles within materialistic society. In the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he had presented the story of Daksha's cursing Narada Muni after Narada had instructed Daksha's sons in pure Krishna consciousness. The jealous father, considering Narada his enemy, had caused him to be always traveling without any home. In his commentary, Srila Prabhupada had written that he also had been cursed by the parents of his disciples. Therefore, despite having many centers around the world, he had to constantly travel and preach. And in the seventh canto, while commenting on the demon Hiranyakashipu's harassment of his son Prahlada, Srila Prabhupada had related the difficulties of the ISKCON devotees in distributing books amid the harassment of Hiranyakashipu's modern counterparts. Thus, Prabhupada was imbuing his literature with the thoughtfulness of his own personality, that of a pure devotee, faithfully dedicating his body, mind, and words in the service to this Bhagavatam. As the word Bhagavata refers not only to narrations about the Supreme Lord, but also to the Lord's devotee, Srila Prabhupada was himself Bhagavata, and through his books, one could gain the inspiration of service to both the book and the person Bhagavata. After 2 weeks in Hawaii, Srila Prabhupada was well into 8th canto, averaging up to 300 digits daily. His health improved also, although his sleeping remained minimal. Of course, Prabhupada said reflectively, it's very good from the spiritual point of view if you don't sleep much. When news came,
Can you just pause?
yes,
Okay. So several things. We observe that at the Mayapur Gaura Purnima festival, Prabhupada made a very uh, what do you call it? It's iconic remarks. Instead of meetings, dissolutions, revolutions, and finally no solutions, there should be chanting. So after that fratricidal war, or the not fratricidal, I mean, yeah, what do you call that? Yeah, the temple president and the Radha Damodar party, that whole argument had broken out. So Prabhupada had successfully diffused those arguments. And so there was, that was, so in the context of that, what had happened, Srila Prabhupada's remarks take on a certain strong meaning, which is that uh, the best way for us to resolve our differences or misconception, or to clear up our misconceptions, is to get together and do Sankirtan. Sankirtan is a combination of two words, Samyak and Kirtan. The Samyak means complete and Kirtan means glorification. So the complete glorification of the Lord is called Sankirtan. And the complete glorification of the Lord is performed in the association of devotees. So when devotees gather together and chant Harinam, that is called Sankirtan. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uh, has said in the first verse of the Shikshashtakam, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So nothing can stand in the way of Sankirtan. Sankirtan can destroy all the obstacles, can destroy all the misgivings, can destroy all the disunity, can destroy every single inauspicious thing in this material world. So it is the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga. So that is the best means for us to resolve any difficulties, chanting together. And also we see in that chapter, when Prabhupada was being asked about whether he was feeling tired, so he's surprised with that question. He said, why tired? And he said, I'm feeling refreshed. So this is the mood of a devotee, especially a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Prabhupada was our leader and is our leader rather. So he has shown the standard, which is that the more and more Sankirtan we perform, the more and more we feel enlivened. So if we are feeling exhaustion, then we need to examine whether we are properly situated. Of course, the body needs rest, so we are not fanatical, but we don't feel, oh, I have done enough of this, or there is no feeling of satiation with the activities of Krishna consciousness. But one can recognize, okay, the body is 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 not able to take it more, but the spirit is willing, as they say. But the flesh may be tired. Okay, so the flesh may need some rest, but the spirit should always be willing or enthusiastic. That is the point that Prabhupada made there. So we can examine our advancement by seeing how enthusiastic are we about our Krishna conscious activities. And we see how Prabhupada explains to Harishori Prabhu that he put in a lot of thought to compose his purports. A lot of thought. Prabhupada put in a lot of thought to convey it in a manner that's understandable to us. And this is very important because we may think, okay, what is this Krishna consciousness? Everybody can speak about Krishna consciousness, but it's no, not necessarily. Yes, everybody can speak about Krishna consciousness, but can everybody speak in a manner that we can understand fully? That's a great, that's a great, what do you call it? Uh, that requires great qualification. It requires great qualification, not ordinary qualification, great qualification. Sometimes we see, I mean, at least I studied, when I went to the university to do a master's in astrophysics. So we had different teachers, but we would always notice that some teachers were very expert, extremely complex things. They would present it in a very nice format for us, for everyone to understand. So when it comes to something like physics, probably we could understand it, we could appreciate it more. But actually speaking, that's insignificant compared to trying to present Krishna consciousness to the common man. It's not at all easy. We may think, oh, what is there? That's because we are just repeating what Prabhupada is saying. But to make the presentation of Krishna consciousness understandable for the common man, it is completely extraordinary. We may not be able to conceive how it is extraordinary. It is because we already have his books, right? So those of us who may have dealt with or delved into philosophy before coming to Krishna consciousness may understand. I had delved into philosophy, so I know how confusing and how complicated it can get with different authors when they speak about spirituality. Prabhupada's presentation is just brilliant. It's just brilliant. And so here we see how Prabhupada um, spent a lot of time in Hawaii trying to uh, present Krishna consciousness in a present Krishna consciousness to save mankind. And as one professor had commented, he said that Prabhupada, we just read that some time ago, that Prabhupada presented Krishna consciousness with the aesthetic sensitivity of a practitioner, while at the same time maintaining the intellectual rigor of a scholar. This combination is not easy again. The aesthetic sensitivity of a devotee combined with scholarly rigor, So Prabhupada did that. And that was appreciated even by an external uh, professor. So he had understood the point well, that Prabhupada has managed to do this. So we see certain things which Sasarup Maharaj brought out very clearly, that nobody could stand in front of Prabhupada's presentation of Krishna consciousness. No Mayavadi, no scientist, no sentimentalist, no Sahajiyas. Nobody could stand uh, in front of the presentation of Krishna consciousness that Srila Prabhupada has done in his books. And he has presented in a very clear, unambiguous manner. Even practitioners of Krishna consciousness, there is no scope of getting confused whatsoever about what Krishna consciousness is all about and what we need to do. And one more thing which Satyarup Maharaj clearly brought up was that he shows in his books that the material world is an illusion. Today, you have a lot of motivational speakers, you have a lot of people speaking a lot of things on spirituality. But what are they actually trying to do? They are trying to make garbage acceptable. They're trying to make something obnoxious acceptable. Now, material energy is not obnoxious. Material energy is not bad, but material energy directed towards sense gratification, that is fit for the crows, as the Bhagavatam explains. So all these motivational speakers and all the spiritualists of today, they are trying to show how to make this life in this world better, and they're all operating within the three modes, which means they're operating in the realm of garbage. So how to try to make garbage attractive? This is in one sentence. If you want to ask what is a motivational speaker or the gurus of today, they're trying to make garbage acceptable. So but Prabhupada came to teach us that material energy is useless if you cannot engage it in the service of the Lord. If you engage in the service of sense gratification, whether it is personal or extended sense gratification could refer to family, society, country, the world. So whatever it may be, but if it is sense gratification, it is garbage. So Prabhupada came to shake us out of that conception of how we do things. It may be very natural to us. So therefore, Prabhupada emphasized how this whole thing is illusory. Illusory, material energy is not illusory, but this whole concept of material well-being is illusory. It's completely illusory. And it traps one into the modes of material nature. Of course, when you say material well-being, I'm not dismissing the whole concept of material well-being. But Prabhupada's idea was, if a thing is engaged for the service of Krishna, it has some value. So if the material body is used for the service of Krishna, then it has got some value. It is very interesting that Prabhupada, in a conversation with, I think they were lawyers, yes, in Australia. So the lawyer is asking a question. Are you saying there's nothing called good for the sake of good? And then Prabhupada asks, what do you mean? So he explains that sometimes you may help a person to cross the road, a blind person or somebody who needs help to cross the road. Isn't that a good thing, he asks. Prabhupada simply dismisses it by saying that, no, only Krishna consciousness. If the person is not Krishna conscious, what is that? It is not good, he says. So is Prabhupada against the concept of helping a person cross the road? No, absolutely not. But the person who's helping has no concept of Krishna consciousness. Krishna conscious people also help. Which can do all these kind of things. But when they do it, they know that my body belongs to Krishna. The person's body whom I am helping to cross the road also belongs to Krishna. So the person in Krishna consciousness is no illusion whatsoever. So when Prabhupada says there's nothing called good outside of Krishna consciousness, it is a fact. Because anything that is not connected to Krishna consciousness is illusory. It is garbage. So Prabhupada brings this out very clearly in his books that that the material world, unless it is engaged in the service of Krishna, it is all useless. So all the modern motivational speakers and others, spiritualists, so-called spiritualists, they are trying to teach people how to live in the world. But Prabhupada was teaching how to live, so to leave the world, not how to live to live. Prabhupada was teaching us how to live to leave, L-E-A-V-E, not live to live, but live to leave. So there is a big difference between Prabhupada's teachings and the teachings of these modern spiritualists. So in Prabhupada's books, he clearly brings out the concept that anything that is not connected to Krishna is a complete waste of time. So it is not the material energy which is the problem. How the material energy is being engaged, which classifies it as garbage or a waste of time. So these are some of the outstanding contributions by Srila Prabhupada through his books. He clearly distinguished reality from illusion, and he clearly defeated the Mayavadis, the scientists, the scholars, anybody who's short of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada completely destroyed them. And so in his writings, you have that rigor. At the same time, it has also the aesthetic sensitivity, very appealing to the devotees, because Prabhupada has a personal relationship with Krishna. And when he presents Krishna in his books, he transmits that the sweetness of that relationship. So it is very, very pleasing to the devotees to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Okay, so these are some thoughts that I had about whatever we have read so far. Anybody would like to say something about whatever we have read so far, or any? Usually we stop at the end of every chapter, but since we only read at 4 pages in this chapter, we just extended it. I just wanted to extend it until this topic of the books keeps continuing. Any thoughts, reflections, questions, comments?
Krishna Prabhuji, just the observation, and maybe others also I might have observed, I do not know. Like because Prabhupada could write the purports for Srimad Bhagavatam only up to the first part of the 10th canto. And later on, it was the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who have completed the other parts of Srimad Bhagavatam. So
Yes.
we could, when we are reading, we could immediately understand the difference in the purports that suddenly changes. We will get, because when I read that for the first time, I was like thinking, what's this? Something is missing or something is like different here. Then I checked this one. Then I came to know that it is not by directly by Srila Prabhupada. It's by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So we can
Okay.
see that so much difference.
Um, okay, I just have a short comment on that. Yes, we can see the difference because Prabhupada is Prabhupada. However, they have done a good job of rendering the 10th canto. It's definitely they've done a good job because they have referred to the commentary of the previous acharyas. Although some things are different in the manner that Prabhupada used to present, but philosophically, the presentation is intact. But the style, yes, because everybody is a person. So yes,
Yes, yes,
it's
I'm
interesting
not
that you
telling.
noticed. It's
Yes.
interesting that you noticed it without realizing that the commentators were different than Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. No, because they have also given, because they have referred anyway from Prabhupada's Krishna book and other books also. But the presentation or whatever, it is really entirely different. And because we are very used to Prabhupada's commentary or his style of this one. So when suddenly changes, we feel really awkward with that one little bit.
I mean, my experience has been that I mean, the first time that it has something like this happened to me many years ago. Uh, so I was just wondering, really, did Prabhupada write like this? But then I realized, oh, it's not Prabhupada who wrote like this. But nevertheless, the philosophical content is intact. Thank you for bringing that up. What else do we have? Any further comments? We can go ahead, Maharaj. Rudradip Nimai Prabhu, could you kindly share the screen? Lila Madhuri Mataji, you can please go ahead. Sorry, Indulekha Kripa Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhu, this one was muted. I was really reading, but I didn't see that it was muted. Sorry, Prabhu, I'll just read it. After 2 weeks in Hawaii, Srila Prabhupada was well into the 8th canto, averaging up to 300 digits daily. His health improved also, although his sleeping remained minimal. Of course, Prabhupada said reflectively, it's very good from the spiritual point of view if you don't sleep much. When the news came of a temple president having difficulty with his GPC authority, Srila Prabhupada saw it as another example of how his writing work, his most important preaching, could be hampered by disruptions. He therefore composed a letter addressed to all the governing body commissioners. My dear GBC disciples, please accept my blessings. Over the past 10 years, I have given the framework, and now we have become more than the British Empire. Even the British Empire was not as expansive as we. They had only a portion of the world, and we have not completed expanding. We must expand more and more unlimitedly. But I must now remind you that I have to complete the translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a great contribution, but our books have given us a respectable position. People have no faith in this church or temple worship. Those days are gone. Of course, we have to maintain the temples as it's necessary to keep our spirits high. Simply, intellectualism will not do. There must be practical purification. So, I request you to relieve me of management responsibilities more and more so that I can complete the Srimad Bhagavatam translation. If I am always having to manage, then I cannot do my work on the books. It's document. I have to choose each word very soberly, and if I have to think of management, then I cannot do this. I cannot be like these rascals and present something mental concoction to cheat the public. So this task will not be finished without the cooperation of my appointed assistants, the GBC, the temple presidents, the sannyasis. I have chosen my best men to be GBC, and I do not want that the GBC should be disrespectful to the temple presidents. You can naturally consult me, but if the basic principle is weak, how, how will things go on? So please assist me in the management so that I can be free to finish the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will be our lasting contribution to the world. While maintaining his excellent progress on Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada also got the opportunity in Hawaii to begin another book. His longtime disciple and editor Hayagriva wrote asking to assist Srila Prabhupada in a series of interviews, commentaries on Western philosophers. This was the same project Prabhupada had begun with his former secretary Shamasundara. But when Shamsundara had abandoned his duties in ISKCON, he had also misplaced the tapes and transcripts of the considerable work they had done together. Hayagriva proposed to start again, beginning with Socrates and Plato. The process would be that Hayagriva would present before Prabhupada a summary of particular Western thinkers' philosophy. Prabhupada would then respond extemporaneously, giving appreciation and criticism of the philosopher according to the Vedic viewpoint. Prabhupada and his disciples had been enthusiastic about the interviews done in former years, and Prabhupada had even titled the series Dialectical Spiritualism. But when Shamsundara had misplaced the tapes, the project had dissipated. Now, Hayagriva, the former college English professor and original editor for Back to Godhead in America, asked to be allowed to come to Hawaii for reviving the philosophy book and for spending time with Prabhupada. Like various other disciples, Hayagriva had given up strictly following the regulative principles. Srila Prabhupada had come to tolerate the reality that some disciples, even after taking vows of initiation, would be unable to resist the strong pull of the senses and would give up the path of active devotional service in ISKCON. In the early years, He and his followers had reacted with great shock whenever a devotee had gone away. But with time, as the unfortunate event had continued to occur, sometimes even striking down leading trusted disciples, Prabhupada had grown to live with it. But he never stopped feeling bereaved over a lost son or daughter, especially if that disciple had rendered him significant service. And he never withheld his affection from them or his open, loving invitation for them to return. Such a case was Hayagriva, a dear son who had come to Srila Prabhupada during the summer of 1966 in New York. He had given valuable service but had eventually been unable to follow the simple but strict principles of Krishna consciousness. Now, after suffering the vicissitudes of material life, he had gathered his resolve to come back to his beloved spiritual master. Hayagriva entered Prabhupada's room. It's your old Hayagriva, Prabhupada, he said, and he fell to the floor sobbing. Prabhupada gave him a garland and asked him how he and his family were doing. Then, in the presence of the other devotees, Prabhupada related how Hayagriva had been sent by Krishna to help him spread Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. When Hayagriva said he had never forgotten Prabhupada, even for a day, Prabhupada replied, and I also never forgot you. I was thinking, has Hayagriva gone away? I was thinking like that. Prabhupada's voice broke, his eyes filled with tears, and he could not speak. Finally, asked everyone to leave the room. Prabhupada and Hayagriva began meeting daily, sometimes for as long as 2 or 3 hours. Dialectical spiritualism was again underway, moving side by side with the eighth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Hayagriva was again in his original position at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Although Prabhupada had written to GBC requesting them to solve ISKCON's problems, he continued to keep informed of the problems as his assistants reluctantly reported to him the bad news. One day, a telegram arrived from Madhudvisha Swami, a dynamic GBC man in charge of ISKCON in one region of the US. Madhudvisha was having serious difficulty remaining strong in Krishna consciousness. In most cases, the difficulties of Prabhupada's disciples were urges towards sensuality. Almost never did disciples turn against Prabhupada, nor did they often reject the philosophical conclusions of Krishna consciousness. They simply fell victim to Maya's allurements. Madhudvisha's telegram was a resignation from the GBC. Although he wanted to continue in devotional service, he felt forced to resign due to spiritual weakness. The telegram gave no details, but Prabhupada heard rumors that Madhudvisha had had an affair and had left the temple. Prabhupada said that this was his god brother's main argument against Westerners taking sannyasa. They would not be able to maintain the strict vows. He said that a German god brother of his had also caused disruption by his intimate dealings with women. What can I do? Prabhupada said sadly. I am working with all third class men, fools and rascals. Things are going on simply by Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada sent a telegram back asking Madhudvisha to come and speak with him. Although he restrained his emotions, the devotees could see that he was distracted. It was another case of a strong, affectionate bond for a son who had rendered wonderful service, a disciple whom he had patiently trained over the years. Again, the possibility of Prabhupada's retiring from active management looked doubtful. Srila Prabhupada said he was trying to engage fools, rascal, anyone to spread Krishna consciousness. He was unable to find strict followers. But what could be done? If someone fell from sannyasa, he said, then that person could become a grihastha, but no one should go away. Harishauri mentioned the Chaitanya Charitamrita story of Lord Chaitanya and Chota Haridas. From that story, said Harishauri, it appeared to be very difficult for a fallen sannyasi to regain the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. One who falls from sannyasa, Prabhupada replied, is called Vantasi, one who vomits and then eats it. So, if they become Grihastha again, then how can they get Lord Chaitanya's mercy? Asked Harishauri. If the spiritual master gives that facility and makes that arrangement, said Prabhupada, then Krishna will accept the arrangement and later he can again become sannyasa. It had happened before, and Prabhupada mentioned a few cases where he had asked fallen sannyasis to get married and stay in their service. Of course, it's a shameful position, he said. But what can be done? My god brothers and sannyasis in India criticize me for giving Brahmana and sannyasa initiation and installing deities in the West and allowing women to stay in the temples. But for all that, I am expanding Krishna consciousness. And for all their strictness, they are doing nothing. If I discriminate, then I will again be one alone as I was in Vrindavana and again become a mouse. It seems, said Shari Shauri, that it will take several generations before we can become purified. If one is sincere, Prabhupada replied, he can become purified even within one generation. That same evening, as Prabhupada prepared to stay up all night translating, he was still thinking of Madhudvisha. Nevertheless, he turned to translation the text in the chapter called The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. The chapter told about the king of elephant Gajendra who lived on the heavenly planets. One day Gajendra was bathing in the river along with his wives when suddenly a crocodile attacked. The crocodile fastened his jaws on Gajendra's leg, and although the elephant was very powerful, he could not release himself from the strong grip of the crocodile while in the water. Thereafter, Srila Prabhupada dictated because of being pulled into the water and fighting for very long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. I can do it very quickly, Prabhupada had said, but I have to meditate how to prepare it for the common man. How could he convey the significance of this event, which happened millions of years ago between two animals on a heavenly planet? How to make it clear and understandable, and capture the essence of the significant Sanskrit words and the Parampara comments of Acharyas like Vishwanatha Chakravarti, Sanatana Goswami, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. In the quiet solitude of his room, Srila Prabhupada began speaking his purport. In the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place. In the water, during 1000 years of fighting, he could not get any food, and under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak and his senses less powerful. The crocodile, however, being an animal of water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Now, from this, we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy, in which all the living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. What constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, Prabhupada continued. And therefore, there are divisions of Varnashrama, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, it's advised that no one takes sannyasa. From this, we can understand that in this age, the sannyasa ashrama is forbidden because people are not strong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us an example in taking sannyasa at the age of 24 years. But even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be extremely careful because he had taken sannyasa at an early age. For preaching, we give young boys sannyasa, but actually it's being experienced that they are not fit for sannyasa. There is no harm, however, if one thinks that he is unfit for sannyasa. If he is very much agitated sexually, he should go to the ashrama where sex is allowed, namely the grihastha ashrama. That one ashrama has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean that he should not stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, as we shall see Gajendra do. And at the same time, one can be a grihastha if he is satisfied with sexual indulgence. There is no need to give up the fight. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore recommended Sthane Stitaha Shruti Gatam Tanuvan Manubhihi. One may stay in whichever ashrama is suitable for him. It's not essential that one takes sannyasa. If one is sexually agitated, he can enter the Gharastha ashrama. But one must continue fighting. For one who is not in transcendental position, to take sannyasa artificially is not a very great credit. If sannyasa is not suitable, one may enter the Grihastha ashrama and fight Maya with great strength. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. From out of his direct confrontation with the forces of illusion, Srila Prabhupada presented his realizations. He had taken the case of Madhudvisha, refined it of its temporal aspects, and immortalized it into an instruction for persons everywhere. Prabhupada's job was to strengthen his disciples so they would not fall. Even if they took to the Grihastha ashrama, the crocodile of sense gratification was still very strong, and illicit sex was the permanent disease of the Western people. They were raised on it and addicted to it, and their society promoted it. To change this mentality would be very difficult. Therefore, in addition to writing, Prabhupada would have to continue traveling and preaching to sustain his disciples and make them strong preachers. As Prabhupada had originally left his writing at the Radha Damodara temple in Vrindavan to preach in the West, so he could leave his writing retreat in Hawaii for preaching. In any case, he was prepared to continue writing wherever he wanted. All along, he had planned to stay in Hawaii only for a month, not permanently. His disciples needed to see him for strength and inspiration, and as long as he had life and breath, this was his purpose. Prabhupada wanted to visit his Los Angeles center, now a large, thriving community of.
Can you just pause for a while?
Yes.
Um, we see two instances here. One is Hayagriva Prabhu, other is Madhudvisha Prabhu. So Prabhupada is extremely fond of both of them. Hayagriva Prabhu helped Prabhupada uh, do the editing of the Bhagavad Gita. And as Prabhupada says here himself, that Krishna sent him to help him propagate the Krishna consciousness movement. Similarly, Madhudvisha Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada is very fond of him. He was the one who went to Australia and set up Krishna consciousness there. And it's there on Prabhupada Memories. You can see there is a video of Prabhupada speaking at La Trobe University, Melbourne. And the students get wild. There's a big commotion there, you know. So, and you can see Madhudvisha Prabhu at that time is sannyasi. He stands up and he speaks very strongly, very, very strongly. And he also mentions, if you want if you want violence, we will meet violence with violence. You know, it's like, so something like that. Anyway, the point is that these personalities have rendered tremendous amount of service to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's point was that when it came to the Gajendra purports, when Prabhupada writes, this incident had taken place. So then Prabhupada writes in the purport that if one should be situated in a position where one can be enthusiastic to fight Maya. So even when he considered uh, that these sannyasis could go back to Grihastha life, he was doing something which was never heard of. A sannyasi, fallen sannyasi, as we saw, there is Vantasi. Is considered, that's how traditionally fallen sannyasi was considered. But Prabhupada's point was that one should be situated wherever one is enthusiastic to fight Maya. It's not that, okay, sannyasi wants some sense gratification. Okay, here is an ashram of sense gratification. Let him have some sense gratification. That is not the point. The point that Prabhupada is trying to make there is once is situated in whatever ashram, one feels enthusiastic to fight Maya. So again, the point of view is Krishna consciousness. He didn't want devotees to leave and go away altogether. He wanted them to pursue their practice of Krishna consciousness. So this is Prabhupada's outstanding compassion. There is nobody's situation is a hopeless situation. Everybody can continue. He wanted everybody to continue the practice of devotional service. And somehow or the other, stick with the process of devotional service, pure devotional service, and of course, eventually attain the goal of life, Krishna Prema. So these are some things which I wanted to mention in regard to these two incidents and Prabhupada, how he dealt with that. Any thoughts, reflections, comments? Okay, so we'll read for some more time, and then we'll stop. Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu.
Prabhupada wanted to first visit Los Angeles Center, now a large thriving community of devotees. He would see their new temple room with its marble arches and gallery of gorgeous transcendental paintings, and observe the opulent worship of the deities Rukmini Dwarakadesha. He would see the latest technological applications of Krishna consciousness at Golden Avatara recording studios and at the FATE Museum, which utilized multimedia dioramas to depict the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. He would sit in the garden and hear Krishna book and walk on Venice Beach discussing scientific theories with Dr. Swarup Damodar. And of course, he would increase the already swelling waves of book distribution. One day, in the car, he had said, "My books will be the law books for human society for the next 10,000 years." Then in Detroit, he would stay for a few days in the mansion he had purchased over a year ago to see how the devotees were taking care of the fabulous gift Krishna had given them and to advise them on how to use it as a showpiece of Krishna consciousness. For himself, Prabhupada was not interested in living in a mansion, and constant traveling proved difficult regardless of where he stayed. The mansions, the opulence, the American money, and the expertise were all for Krishna's pleasure. From Detroit, Prabhupada would go to Toronto, where a year ago he had encouraged the devotees and the Indian community to purchase a big church in the city. Now, in recent months, they had actually purchased it and they were awaiting Prabhupada's arrival. He would also travel to New Vrindavan, where for 2 years the devotees had been anxiously awaiting his return. They wanted him to sit on the grand new Vyasasana they had carved for him to behold the deities of Radha Vrindavana Chandra and to grace the palace they were building for him. And they wanted to see him again with his dear disciple Kirtanananda Swami. He would drink the milk of the new Vrindavan cows and teach about Varnashram Dharma. He would praise the simple life and blast away at the follies of urbanized, industrialized civilization. For the 4th of July, 1976, the bicentennial anniversary of the United States independence, Srila Prabhupada would be at the ISKCON temple in Washington, D.C., where he would hold Kirtana at the monuments before millions of people. And on July 6, in Washington, he would observe the 10th anniversary of the formation of ISKCON. Then he would go to New York for that city's first full-scale Rath Yatra. He would stay in the newly acquired ISKCON skyscraper, the 12-story building in Midtown Manhattan. Srila Prabhupada had sometimes said his greatest fear was that his disciples would fight with one another, causing serious splits in his movement. Therefore, he traveled using his great influence to unite all elements. He had seen how even those to whom he had given great responsibility could again become victims of sense gratification. But he had also seen how his being with his disciples strengthened them. He was declaring humanity's dependence on God, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and making a forceful revolution against the prevailing decadence of the day. Although America, in her 200th anniversary, was abandoning her God consciousness, Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON was fresh and vital, instilling pure God consciousness in America and everywhere. The cover of the latest issue of God Back to Godhead, which Prabhupada liked, depicted a devotee singing Hare Krishna in front of a red, white, and a blue bicentennial exhibit. The cover caption read, Declaring our dependence on God. Prabhupada had therefore Prabhupada had complete confidence in the eventual victory of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Although now 80 years old, he was the leader, the strongest devotee. Wherever he traveled, he brought life and strength, and so he continued. New York City, July 9, 1976. Jayananda was driving the car. Tamalakrishna Goswami and Rameshwara Swami were also there. They had picked up Srila Prabhupada and Harishauri at LaGuardia Airport, and as they proceeded towards Manhattan, Prabhupada asked, Things are going on here nicely? Tamala Krishna replied that everything had really just begun. You will see that all the work is just in progress, he said. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada, managed nicely. Krishna is giving us everything. There is no scarcity. If we simply sincerely work, Krishna will give us intelligence, everything. By his mercy, everything is available. That is Krishna. He can give you anything. As their car approached the colossal Brooklyn Bridge, Srila Prabhupada inquired, There is Brooklyn Bridge, I think. Sometimes I was coming here and sitting down near the bridge. Near the water? Asked the Malakrishna. They were fascinated to hear of Srila Prabhupada's early activities alone in New York. You were sitting near the water? Yes, that river, said Prabhupada, because I was on that Bowery Street. It's not very far away. So I was coming, walking there, and sitting under that bridge and thinking, when I shall return to India. He laughed. He asked about other places, almost like inquiring about old friends. The Fulton Street, subway station, and Chamber Street. Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada that the ISKCON Center was not far from the Empire State Building and that he would be able to get a nice view of it from his room on the 11th floor. Our building, said Tamal Krishna, is right in the midst of the theater, restaurant, and entertainment section of the city. In New York, said Prabhupada, I feel a little at home because first I came here. I was loitering on the street here and there from 1965 September to July 1967. Continually, I stayed in New York. The Malakrishna Maharaja gave a class this morning, said Rameshwar Swami. He was explaining that we cannot understand the good fortune of this city that you have come here. Yes, when I decided that I shall go to a foreign country, said Prabhupada, I never thought of going to London. I thought of coming here. Generally, they go to London, but I thought, no, I shall go to New York. Very progressive, Tamal Krishna commented. I do not know. Prabhupada laughed. It is Krishna's dictation. I could have gone. London was nearer, but I thought, no, I shall go to New York. Sometimes I was even dreaming that I had gone to New York. As they passed through various neighborhoods, Srila Prabhupada recalled the old days. He mentioned Dr. Mishra's yoga studio and his room at 172nd Street, where his tape recorder and typewriter had been stolen. The Western Superative, where he would buy fruit. Sometimes I think I was coming to this part, said Prabhupada, looking out the window aimlessly. Yes, sometimes walking on Second Avenue, acknowledging his senior disciple who was steadily and silently driving the car. Prabhupada said, our Jayananda was driving a taxi and chanting Hare Krishna. And one day he brought me $5,000. It was given for the publishing of Bhagavad Gita, but I think Macmillan took it. Then you put him in charge to sell all the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, said Tamal Krishna. I remember. Didn't sell too many books though, said Jayananda. Prabhupada laughed while Jayananda remained silent, intent on the task of driving through the city. I thought he was the best, most appropriate person to drive you, said Tamal Krishna. He was chanting and driving, said Prabhupada, very good boy. As they weaved through Manhattan traffic, a taxi driver shouted at them. What does he say? Prabhu asked Prabhupada. He said, you have a nice car, said Tamal Krishna. That's good. They like the car. Prabhupada laughed. Ask him, why don't you come here? Why are you driving a taxi? Come join us. This car is the food company's version of a Cadillac, said Rameshwara. They cannot understand because we say we are not after material opulence for ourselves. They cannot understand why we drive in these cars. They think that we unnecessarily criticize, said Prabhupada. But we require everything, just like a man. When he is alive, his decoration, his nice dress, everything is good. But if he is dead, then it is useless. Similarly, without spiritual consciousness, we are dead because the body is dead. Only because the spirit soul is there, therefore it is moving. The important point is the spirit soul. So if you are simply taking care of the body nicely, that means you are decorating the dead body. What's the value of it? Is it clear? The body is important because the soul is there. So long the life is there, if you decorate the body, everyone will appreciate. But if you decorate the dead body, everyone will say, what a fool he is. Similarly, without spiritual knowledge, this dead civilization simply on the bodily concept of life, it is ridiculous that we have to condemn. Take Krishna consciousness, then everything has value. Just like 1, if there is 0, then it becomes 10. Add another 0, it becomes 100. But without that 1, it's simply 0. It is only useless. That 1 is Krishna, said Tamara Krishna. And Krishna's representative, added Rameshwar. As they drove down 55th Street, the devotees pointed out to Prabhupada the ISKCON building with the words Hare Krishna written in bold letters down the side, a large yellow banner showing a devotee of Lord Chaitanya performing Sankirtana flew from the front of the building, and a stylish awning emblazoned Hare Krishna Center extended onto the sidewalk. At the sight of Prabhupada's car, hundreds of devotees at the entrance began to cheer and chant his name. It was the largest gathering of ISKCON devotees since Mayapur festival. Many had come from distant places to be with Srila Prabhupada, and more than 600 devotees were staying in the building. The Kirtana was tumultuous. Standing before the deities of Radha Govinda, Prabhupada appeared pleased. A picture of Lord Jagannatha, Balarama, and Subhadra was on the third altar, and Prabhupada said he was anxious to see them on the Yatra day. As Prabhupada sat on the large green Vyasasana, he was at first too moved with the emotion to speak. First of all, I must thank you all for bringing me in a new temple, he began. Because when I first came, my ambition was to start a temple here in New York, and I was seeking the opportunity. He described some of his first almost helpless attempts to buy a 25 by 100-foot space in Manhattan, but he had been unable to get any money. I had no place, he said. What to speak of a temple? I had no residential place even. So, in that condition, I was thinking of returning to India. Practically every week, I was going to the shipping company. So, it's a long history that I came here with determination to start a temple in New York first. But at that time, 10 years before, in 1965, it was not possible. But by the grace of Krishna and by the grace of my Guru Maharaja, you have got this place. So I must thank you very much for organizing this temple. Later, in his lecture, Prabhupada stressed how Guru and Krishna were saving the conditioned souls from eternal suffering in the material world. Don't lose this opportunity, he said. Don't be foolish, misled by so called scientists, philosophers, or politicians. Take to Krishna consciousness, and that is possible only by Guru Krishna Kripaya. By the mercy of Guru and by the mercy of Krishna, you can achieve all success. That this is the secret. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha guru. यस्यैते कथिता हि अर्थाः प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः. So this Guru Puja we are doing, it is not self-aggrandizement. It is real teaching. You sing daily, Guru Mukha Vakya Chittate Kariya Aikya. I shall tell you frankly, whatever little success is there in this Krishna consciousness movement, I simply believed what was spoken by my Guru Maharaja. You also continue that. Then every success will come. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada then toured the entire 12-story building. He spoke little but approved of almost everything he saw. His disciples seemed to be managing things properly on his behalf. His quarters were well appointed, with separate rooms for sitting and resting. So I shall again stay in New York? He asked as he sat at his desk. Adikeshava Swami, the temple president, said, "This is your triumphant return, Srila Prabhupada." Yes, Prabhupada replied, "That is my sentiment." Prabhupada, devotees were eager to point out the features of the rooms, the view from the window, and the relative quiet. It's very peaceful for translating work, said Rameshwara Swami. Oh, yes, said Srila Prabhupada. When my Guru Maharaja left, I was alone. So he has sent so many gurus to take care of me. You are my Guru Maharaja's representatives. We are Guru Dasa, a devotee said. So you are taking care, said Prabhupada, and I am very much obliged to you. I sometimes think of my childhood. I was very pet son of my father. I had admitted that in the book. My father was not very rich man, but still, whatever I wanted, he would give me. He never chastised me, but full love. Then, of course, I got friends and I was married. So, by Krishna's grace, everyone loved me, and I came to this foreign country without any acquaintance. So, Krishna sent me many fathers to love me. In that way, I am fortunate. At the last stage, if I live peacefully, that is the great mercy of Krishna. By Krishna's mercy, everything is possible. So we shall stick to Krishna's lotus feet, then everything is possible. During Prabhupada's 10-day stay in New York, the devotees remained in a triumphant, euphoric mood. For the Rath Yatra, the devotees had permission from the city to have the parade down Fifth Avenue.
Mataji, I think we'll stop here.
Yes.
So we shall stick to Krishna's lotus feet.
Yes.
I just want to add a short note that Srila Prabhupada said that if he were to leave his body in America, then his samadhi should be built on top of this 12-story skyscraper. The irony is that ISKCON sold that skyscraper. It's no longer with us. Well, the history is a little too long. I won't get into that now. But we don't have that skyscraper anymore with us. I just wanted to mention this point that Prabhupada said that if he left his body in America, then he wanted his samadhi to be on top of this skyscraper. And it's the manner in which Prabhupada recollects history of his struggles, it's very endearing, very endearing. The way he narrates it, it's filled with his love for his spiritual master, with his faith, which it's just I- I- it's so tangible. When he presents it, it's like you're almost living with Prabhupada when you hear Prabhupada speak about his days, trying to struggle to establish the Krishna consciousness movement, the affectionate relationship that he had with his father, and how his Guru Maharaj had arranged for all of his disciples to be with him because he was alone. And he says, Krishna, I mean, Guru Maharaj arranged. So now you have now he has so many fathers. I mean, nobody can put it the way Prabhupada has put it. It's unique. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. If there are any comments or questions or reflections.
Krishna Prabhu, did they buy any other property in the New York, or they have only the 26th Second Avenue, that one?
No, they bought something else. They bought something else. The idea was to make it bigger and things like. But anyway, it collapsed. The plan didn't work. It was a poor plan. We don't have this is a skyscraper in Manhattan. It's like right in the middle of the business district, Manhattan. But yeah, it's a great loss, of course.
Where do they have Prabhuji in New York, another temple?
I don't know the address though, but it is a prominent area, and we have a big temple there.
Okay.
But you cannot compare that to this. This is something else. I mean, like this is on a league of its own. In a league of its own.
Was this the entanglement with the Kirtananda issues, and that's how we lost it, or you'd rather not go into it at the moment?
Pardon?
Was the loss because of all the issues with Kirtananda Swami going on at the time?
No. The idea was, I think it was, I don't know if it's Adikeshava Swami himself. They had an idea to sell this and buy a bigger property and something. There is a whole plan which collapsed. No, that has nothing to do with Kirtananda Swami's issues. No.
Because the new New York center was under him for a long while, wasn't it? It's only recently just bought back under ISKCON.
Oh, was it under him? No, I was not aware of that. That part of it,
he was controlling it, and I think and my Guru Maharaj, he actually gave it to him, and then that's how it came back under ISKCON.
So that you're talking about the Bhakti.
Sorry?
Are you talking about the Bhakti Center?
Yes, bro.
No, that is not the main New York temple. They rather Govinda temple is elsewhere.
This is the Brooklyn one, yeah?
Brooklyn one. Yeah. Brooklyn, yes. Brooklyn one. That's a much bigger place.
So Radha Govinda were in the skyscraper, and then they went to the smaller center, not to the Brooklyn center then. Is that right?
Oh, no, they went to the Brooklyn center.
Okay.
Radha Govinda went to Brooklyn.
Yeah, this is a very poignant section. Actually, you've nicely summarized it with Prabhupada's emotions in various spectrum of devotional teachings, both from how he writes very, very potent and poignant purports to the Gajendra pastimes and stuti in reflection of what was going on at the time with the other swamis, fallen swamis, and of course his return to New York, which is quite heart-wrenching when he's actually speaking about it. So you're absolutely right. You feel you're there with Prabhupada's pain. It's interesting how he calls his disciples fathers.
Yes.
That's interesting. And also, he doesn't hold back when he's describing his. He says it generically. I don't think he says it with exception that my disciples are rascals and I can't remember what the other word was.
Oh, fools and rascals. Oh, yes.
Fools.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to mention, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, he was not, although he spoke in the context of Madhudesha Swami and others, but he had a lot of affection for them. I mean, his affection was very strong for these people, actually, especially those who really helped him in the initial days. So Prabhupada speaking, yes, generically. I mean, he was just talking about the situation rather than about the people themselves. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Please go on. Please go on.
No, I was just going to say he was fully aware of the reality of the situation with what was going on in ISKCON. It wasn't that he was blinded to any of it. He was aware fully what was going on throughout. That was the remarkable thing, such 108 centers and management of these various centers with all of the idiosyncrasies that were going on. He was aware with the underlying mood of what was going on in the organization throughout. Just quite remarkable. Yeah. So,
yes.
No, thank you. Quite a
And one
poignant.
person could do it all.
Sorry?
That one person could do it all. It's quite unbelievable.
Yeah. Although he said one person can't do it all, one person did it all. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Addiction. What else? Okay, so thank you all for joining. We'll resume again the coming Sunday. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha paridanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.